And welcome everyone to week one of the season here on March Madness. I'm Andy Katz. Pleased to break down our first Power 36 and AP poll in the season. So let's take a look, and then we're going to take some of your questions, obviously, over the next couple of minutes. Let's start off with comparing the two polls in the AP poll and the Power 36. So what I did was, for this first week, I reshuffled the top four after the Champions Classic. I didn't want to penalize people for losing games against teams in the top four and kick them out. AP did that with Kansas. Yes, they had 28 turnovers, but it was a last possession game to Duke, and they moved Louisville up one spot after Louisville knocked off Miami. So I have Louisville and Maryland 5-6 because I didn't feel like I should drop them any further than that. In comparing the two, I had Virginia 12 after seeing them throttle Syracuse. Did a great job defensively. Offensively, still some work to do. They're young in those spots. They're at number 9 in the AP poll. Villanova 10. I got Villanova a little further down at 16. They only played Army. They're at Ohio State this week. Want to sort of see a little bit more what happens. Texas Tech, Seton Hall. Seton Hall at 12. I don't know if they're assuming that Miles Powell out for a long period of time. That's the assumption. We'll wait and see if that's definitely happening. Ohio State, 13 versus 16. Utah State, 17 versus 29, which you could argue is a little low for me, but I want to see them, beat some high-level teams first. Washington, Arizona. I was glad to see them put Arizona in. That means the people in the poll were watching Arizona late Sunday night. I did not have Arizona in the preseason. I had them just outside. So I watched them. They were big time. Their three freshmen, led by Nico Mannion, were elite. They are a team that could go pretty far in the NCAA tournament. That's why I jumped Arizona all the way up to number 15 in my first in-season Power 36. Xavier fans, already heard from you at least a little bit. So I got Xavier down in the 30s because I want to wait and see when they step up in competition. They're 21 in the AP poll. Same with LSU, big game this week against VCU. Baylor at 24. I put Baylor at 19. They basically had that game won up in Anchorage and then lost it. Colorado with their win over Arizona State in China. Basically, we have them within 2 spots. So not a huge difference. The back part of my Power 36, teams that weren't mentioned, Oklahoma with their win over Minnesota in South Dakota. I have Oregon State at 26 after knocking off Iowa State. I'm clearly higher on Georgetown than they are. The same with USC. Providence, who I've seen in person, I'm going to see them against Northwestern. I like them. They're not 100% healthy yet with Nate Watson's still out. I feel like I'm a man in the wilderness here with Penn State. A lot of people will know how good they are when they play Georgetown this week. And Vermont, 2-0 start, 2 road wins. I like the Catamounts as a team that can get in the NCAA tournament and win a game. All right, let's take some questions. Derek says Cole Anthony is a real deal. Yes. Our first National Player of the Week coming from North Carolina. Florida lost to Florida State yesterday. Yes, I watched it. So Florida dropped to 15 in AP. I dropped Florida to 18. I had Florida State at 17. Florida State did not make the AP poll. I don't know if they're basing that on losing to Pitt, but I would rather have the win over Florida than the loss to Pitt. I think that's going to weigh a lot. That's a quad 1 win, and that will more than cancel out the road loss by 2 at Pitt. Andre, do I have a Miles Powell update? I do not. At this juncture, as we're taping this on Monday, it's my understanding that he would not play against Michigan State, but I would never rule that out. You never know with any of these injuries. I don't like to speculate in that regard. Joey asks, how concerned am I about Kansas and its turnovers? Well, very, because it wasn't just the guards, the bigs too. Big to big, there were some turnovers underneath the basket late in that game. So Kansas is going to have to get a hold of that. And they got a very tough schedule. And Baylor and Texas Tech cannot be dismissed as potential Big 12 champs. Nothing's going to be handed to Kansas. We saw that last year where they weren't able to win it with K-State and Texas Tech sharing it. So Robert Bradshaw pitch shot 30 free throws, and maybe that's the reason that they won by 2, and then maybe their true colors were losing to Nicholls State. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. Christopher says, well, do I think Michigan will dance? They need Franz Wagner back. I think they're going to be a first 4 type team. So Mitchell wants to know, how does Marquette fall so many spots? So, not ranked in the AP. Marquette at 32 for me. They were, I don't know if they were falling as necessarily. This is more of a true Power 36 because games have been played. Looking at who they played, Marcus Howard has 38. This is a huge week for Marquette. Marcus Howard joined us on the March Madness 365 podcast, which you'll be able to hear late tonight, tomorrow morning, because they host Purdue in the Gavitt games, and then they are at Wisconsin on the weekend. So we're going to know a lot more about Marquette this week. Robert, again, you're very. I appreciate all the questions. He thinks Purdue's going to miss the tournament. I do not. What's the biggest concern, Jordan says, for Kentucky this season? I would say just more consistency from the front court. I think you're going to see more and more Nate Sestina. He, I think, gives them an anchor, someone they can count on inside that they can feel comfortable, or John Calipari can, certainly, putting him in at any point in the game. Nick Richards has been playing well early, but perimeter-wise, and Tyrese Maxey had essentially every key rebound late in that game as a guard who can do a little bit of everything. So if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm feeling pretty good about this Kentucky team. There's no question about it. Let's see. Steven says, what's the biggest concern for Duke outside of shooting? I would say inside. You know, what happens when they go against Michigan State, game I'm going to be at? If the Michigan State bigs cause some problems for them, how do they deal with strength? I think on the perimeter they'll be fine. But how will they deal with real physical players inside? That would be, I think, one issue for them. Jeremy, do I think Oklahoma is a sleeper team for the tournament? Yes, I do. I think they will ultimately get in. Feeling good, Courtain, about Texas Tech? Yes. Their schedule is a little bit further on where they're going to start playing tougher teams. So, I think we're going to see, well, first of all, Jamius Ramsey had a great first game for Texas Tech. They're going to be fine. They're going to be a team that's going to be right there for the potential Big 12 title with Baylor and Kansas. Ray wants to know the biggest problem for Villanova. Probably will be inside, how they handle Caleb Wesson on Wednesday night. Guard-wise, Colin Gillespie is an experienced lead guard. I like their wings, if you will, whether it's Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, who's a forward, Sadiq Bey, Jermaine Samuels. But if they go against like a more of a true anchor inside, so that's Caleb Wesson, Ohio State, that could be Omer Yurtseven from Georgetown. Providence, once Watson is healthy, and they've got really good strength, that could be an issue for them. Josh wants to know if his Florida Gators just had a bad game, or did they expose a weakness? Well, offensively, they didn't play well. So they can get better in that regard. Defensively, there were times they didn't close out. There were some open threes for Florida State. I think it's going to be a great, eye-opening experience for the Gators. I think they can definitely play better than that, and they will. They will. Louisville or Kentucky, asks Joshua. Not going to be at that game this year. We'll be watching. I'm going to say that prediction, but both those, we could have a year again where it was it 2013? I think we both made the Final Four, where we could see that again. Aaron Krause, is Illinois a tournament team? Yes. If Brad Underwood could bottle those first 20 minutes and extend it out, because that was a big-time game Sunday night. Big-time game Sunday night. And the problem was Illinois' defense, which should be its anchor, that's what broke down against Arizona in the second half. It wasn't offensively as much as it was. And they were starting quick shooting a little bit. But, Kofi Cockburn, is a monster in there. I mean, he can clear people out. But defensively, they were just giving up, the Arizona was getting in the basket. They were giving up some open looks. And that's where they got to tighten up. And it was a great environment at McHale, always. Dan wants to know, will VCU make a great run? Let's see how they do against LSU. They're a tournament team. Stay healthy. But this is a big game for them against LSU midweek. Steven Shackelford says UNC or Duke. I think they'll split their games this year. And who has the bigger upside? I don't see either one at the Final Four. I don't. But I think they both could be Elite Eight type teams. Raymond, a Cincinnati tournament team. Yes, they'll be fine in the American. All right, let's just take a couple more. Let's see. I'm just going to try to take a couple more here. I'm waiting for them to filter in. All right, so Christopher says if Joshua Langford doesn't come back, doesn't come back, can Michigan State still find themselves in the Final Four? Yes. A lot will determine on Rocket Watts' improvement. Steven says, who do I have winning the ACC? I'm going to stay with my pick. No reason to change it yet, and that was Louisville. Let's see here. Try to get two more. Thoughts on Ohio State? DJ Carton, CJ Walker, Caleb Wesson, Andre Wesson. Excuse me. They have the pieces to be a top 4 Big Ten team. This game against Villanova is going to be a good test for them, especially on the perimeter. Those guards are going to be pushed. Which mid-major can make a deep run, says Ephraim. I'm on the Catamounts bandwagon. Watch out for Vermont. The Hoyas make the tournament, Dan. Yes, they do. My opinion on Cole Anthony, phenomenal. Top 5 pick. Potential player of the year nationally. Let's see. And Brian says, is Gonzaga a Final Four team? Would never rule it out. So far, good play from Ryan Wildridge and Admon Gilder. Philip Petrusev has played really well offensively. Corey Kispert has. The X factor, Killian Tilly. If he's healthy, then yes, they have the pieces to make a deep run. They're going to be in the battle for Atlantis. We'll know a lot more about Gonzaga after that. This week they're at Texas A&M, a game they really should win. They're better than A&M, but you got to win the game. Carolina at home, another game that, at home they should win. But, yeah, I think they've got the pieces. All right, Andy, I'll let you have this as the last word. Where will Tennessee be ranked when they upset Washington and Florida State? Well, if they win those 2 games, they will definitely be in the top 25. Boom. First one's in Toronto against Washington. Listen to the March Madness 365 podcast for my pick on that game in Toronto. All right. Tons of great content on all our March Madness social media platforms. Digest, debate, the Power 36 against the AP poll. We're doing this every week around this time, 1 or 2 o'clock, every Monday for the next 15 weeks. So enjoy it. We're off and running. Appreciate it. Thank you.